Today's topic is our survey template manager from the new CTC Sim Manager Suite. This is a CAD tool set for CAD managers working in Civil 3D and AutoCAD, and helps speed up those processes that you guys are having to work with. I am Brian Lewandowski. I am the Civil Product Manager at CTC Software, and I am excited to show you guys what I have for you today. So you guys have seen some of these tools. We just released these a few weeks ago, and we're going to be doing some deep dive webcasts like this on these different tool sets, both with the Sim Manager Suite as well as the Sim Project Suite. So just a couple things to note. This is being recorded. It will be accessible afterwards. I will take questions, but I'll hold them to the end, so feel free to type those into the questions window in GoToWebinar, and we'll go ahead and respond to those at the end. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into it. The Sim Manager Suite, what is this? Like I said, it's a set of tools for CAD managers, or those who do CAD manager type duties, and it's for Civil 3D as well as AutoCAD. And it shows up as a ribbon in Civil 3D when it's installed. Below there's the ribbon you'll see. And what we do with the Sim Manager Suite is we try to automate template creation and editing. We try to, well, we don't try, but we allow Excel syncing to help manage these standards, be it layer lists, be it description key sets, you name it. So it's all these settings in your templates. It's layers, line types, styles, description key sets, figure prefix databases. All these types of things are what go into creating a good template, as well as managing, updating, and editing that template. So what we're going to focus on today is the Survey Template Manager. That's one of the 4 tool sets within the Sim Manager Suite. And why did we create this Survey Template Manager? Well, to start with, it's about managing your survey templates. So these are templates where you're bringing in topo survey data, for example, processing this, generating points and line work, that kind of thing. But why do we want to create a tool set? Well, first of all, good templates are what support efficient CAD use, right? If we have top-notch templates, it really helps our users to work that much better. This is especially so with survey production within Civil 3D. And so you want those templates to be as good as possible. Now, it's a whole other thing getting those users up to speed, the learning curve, how to use those tool sets. But the easy part is having those good templates. But the problem is, it's pretty time-consuming managing these templates, creating new ones for a new client, just editing them as the survey teams want to change their code list. Perhaps you're implementing an entirely new code list. Time management is time-consuming, or template management rather. And I know you guys don't have time for this stuff, right? So many of you out there are doing a lot of production, and you're also expected to do a lot of these CAD management duties. So we're trying to speed this up for you guys, right? You're trying to fit this in at the end of your days, coming in early in the morning to fit this in. We want to speed that up for you. And so that's what we're after with Survey Template Manager. And so with Survey Template Manager, it focuses on the description key set and the figure prefix database. These are the major 2 table sets within a template where you plug in all of these standards, these layers, these styles, and so forth, to make your templates just sing. And the problem with these is that they're fairly slow and clumsy to work with. If you're just updating them, it's kind of slow and clumsy, right? What if you have to create a new one for a new survey standard, for example? It's all pretty slow and clumsy. And again, we don't have time for a lot of this. So that's what we're trying to do. We're going to take, with Survey Template Manager, which is this last set of tools in the Sim Manager Suite, we're going to allow you to edit those description key sets as well as the figure prefix database from Excel. And I know what some of you are thinking is like, well, I can do that already. I can copy the key set and throw it in Excel. Yeah, you can. What about syncing it back after the fact? What about creating or adding or syncing your description key sets in your figure database from Excel. We've done this, and we've also added a number of other features which I'm going to walk through with you in the software. One of these things are automatic style creation. Very cool stuff we've added in here. The export that comes out of it, it's not just a blank copy and paste from the description key set or the figure prefix database. It gives you really smart Excel exports. I'm talking about drop downs within Excel, nicely formatted Excel spreadsheets. So there's an export option in there as well. So we're going to go through a number of use cases with the description key set as well as the figure prefix databases. And we're going to start off by creating a new description key set or figure prefix database. The process is roughly the same. I'll show you both of them, the description key set and the figure database. But we'll start with the description keys. So this is one use case, certainly, is creating a new description key set, an entirely new one. How would you go about that? It's pretty slow and clumsy doing that right in the native interface. The second case is to be exporting an existing key set or figure database. Why would we export it? So that we can then work within Excel and sync those changes back to our templates in the first place. And the third use case is to be editing or maintaining and managing that description key set or that figure prefix database. All of this, the stuff that you guys are having to work with at one time or another. And I get that the Sim Manager Suite, right? We're talking about CAD management. This isn't necessarily daily production, right? But, you know, I just talked to a firm yesterday, and they were talking about, oh, we just overhauled this set of standards or these templates, right? And you spend days or weeks on this stuff, right? And it ends up being very prohibitive to do that stuff. And you have to maintain these templates, update them and improve them as Civil 3D changes, as your project delivery standards change, right? We want to be able to do this quickly and just in time, right? We don't want to have to wait. And then finally, when all the users are begging me to do it, I finally get in there and I update those templates. We need to do it when users need it or when we realize there's a new standard to push out. So let's jump into Civil 3D and see how some of this works. So here's the Sim Manager Suite. It's a tab in your ribbon. The other suite from CTC is also the Sim Project Suite. We've got webcasts coming up on those new tools as well. And what we're going to start off with is looking at these different tool sets here. You can see I've got export description keys, I've got create edit description keys, I've got export figure prefix database, as well as create edit figure prefix database. And there's simple little dialog boxes that open up like this. And by the way, what I'm going to go through today will be, again, showing you different use cases for this, but how you exactly use this, it may be yet another scenario from what I show here today. But I do want to mention, right in your About menu, you'll be able to find this user guide. It's a detailed user guide outlining how all of this functions. So if I scroll right down to my survey template manager, and here I can find really detailed explanations of each and every function within all the interfaces. So back here, let's start off by creating a new description key set. So what does this look like? Well, how about we click on the Create Edit Description Keys. I get this dialog box. And the first thing it wants me to do is to browse to an Excel file. Well, I don't have an Excel file yet. Well, what we've provided is to open a sample right here. And what this will do is basically create an example, an empty Excel file, all formatted and ready to go, but with the layers and styles that exist in the current drawing. So I've got a representation of a current template open right now, and you can see there's no description key set. But what I have done is I've created some styles in here already. Some of the stuff I know I might need, right? And now it's time to build that description key set. Now we're going to show you how to do automatic style creation as well, but you can do it either way. So let's go back here, Create Edit Description Key Sets. And I'm just going to go ahead and open Excel file. I'm going to save this out as the CTC description key set new and overwrite it, and then go ahead and open it right away. And what you're going to see is I get an Excel file with all the columns that we would find in our description key set. So all those columns that are showing in there. Okay, and now I can just start typing this in or copying and pasting codes in here. It becomes fairly simple. I'd mentioned the export that comes out of the tool set. It'll read what's in the drawing. So you guys are going to like this, right? This is basically like selecting from the styles that exist in the drawing already. I can do the same for the label styles. This exports whatever is current in that drawing. That text will export here in the format of a drop-down. I've got my layers that existed in the drawing. This is a back of curb point, so that perhaps goes on V-node curb, perhaps this one, V-node ground. And what's great about Excel, it's this kind of stuff, right? It's drag and drop. I mean, it doesn't get much faster than that. Let's go back to Civil 3D. Let's sync this up, and then we're going to work back and forth where we're able to make changes in Excel, sync it to Civil 3D, and be on our way. So let's come up here. Let's move Civil 3D over to the side here. And we'll run Create, Edit Description Keys. And what I'm going to do now is browse out to this Excel file we have on the left screen here. And I'm going to create a new DKS. I'm going to check on Create New Point Styles in case I define some new ones here. We'll show you how that works in a bit. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit Next. And what we get is this nice report, or basically explanation of what's going to happen. Right up here it's telling me I've got new codes. I've got 4 of them, and it has spelled these out. You'll see some of these fields are red over here, and that's because those are fields I did not define, and so it's going to default to something right there. I've also got changed codes. We don't have anything there yet. Unchanged, deleted, and duplicate codes. So let's walk through this more and see how this other information shows up in here. But I want to show a process or a workflow that's pretty handy here. I can keep this open on the right side, and then I can be over here on the left, and I can be adding in additional codes. Or making changes to what I had, right? That layering wasn't correct. I set this like this. I hit Save up here in Excel, and I come back here and hit the reload, and now it's saying all that stuff is going to go on the curb layer. What else can we do in here? Let's go ahead and create a new code again. And I talked about this automatic style creation. So let me show you how this works. Perhaps I've generated some styles and they show up in my drop-down here, and that's great. But we might be just starting from scratch with our code list. Maybe we have all our blocks loaded, okay? Those blocks actually show up in here. Every block definition that was in the current template when I ran the open sample file shows up in here. So maybe I don't have the styles created, but I know perhaps what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to just be named hydrant. It's going to give me a prompt and say, hey, this isn't part of the drop-down. Well, that's what I want to do. I wanted to create a new style. So then I come right into here and grab a proposed hydrant block. For the label style, we're going to go like so. And then perhaps for the layer, we grab the symbol water. Go ahead and hit Save. Come back here and hit Reload. And now I have a 5th code to be added. And it's also highlighting in red because that's going to create a new style for me using this block. Again, it's using layers that already exist in there. Let's go ahead and hit OK and see that description key set created. Come into my drawing here. And here's that key set. All 5 of those codes created. If I dig into here, I'll find a point style that was automatically generated, and within that, a block that was loaded based on that. Now the rest of the settings in this point style, those are going to be based on your command and your feature settings that currently reside in your template. But we can auto-generate a ton of styles like this. So if you're creating an entirely new key set, maybe you're overhauling your code list, whatever it is, we can do that pretty quickly in here. Let's add a couple more like this so you can see how quickly this can be, or how quickly this can work. Do I have an ARV style in there? I don't think so. Release valve. So we want to generate one. So the speed with which you can build this out is substantially faster than what you would do in Civil 3D. This one should be a storm layer. There we go. Let's do another thing. Perhaps I'm changing my code list. I've added some new codes here at the same time. Let's do multiple things. Let's also delete top and toe. Perhaps a field crew said, yeah, we don't use top and toe, we just use break line now, and that covers it, right? So we've now deleted some codes as well. So let's come back to here and run the create, edit, description keys. We'll browse to that Excel file again. It should remember where we are looking. And now we're going to tell it not to create a new one, but to edit and update the one I already have created. And all these editing options become available. I've got sync description key set or add description to description key set. Here's the difference. If I do add, it won't delete codes. If I do sync, it will delete codes. So let's do this one. So let's set it to add, and I hit next. There's my new codes created, the ARV and the FES. There's some changed codes. And the reason that's showing up is because I still don't have these columns filled out over here. So it's defaulting those. And then the unchanged codes are toe and top. And then there's no deleted codes, right? We did delete codes, but I can use this function in different ways. Sync would be to be doing adding or subtracting of codes within your description key set. Well, what if I'm building a new key set, perhaps from multiple different Excel files, and I just kind of want to be dumping them into one place and not syncing them? That's where the add option would come into play. So if I set this to sync, now what I'm going to find is I have some deleted codes. I have toe and top as deleted codes. What if I was working really fast in here and I was copying codes and had 2 FES codes by mistake? I had a big long list. I didn't notice it. There's those deleted codes and so on. So lots of different things we can do within this, right? So this is kind of the process you might go through for creating a new description key set. But once we've got that created, we want to be in more of a maintenance mode. And so what we want to do at that point, I hit OK to this. Let's close out of this Excel file. And what we're after now is actually taking this drawing here, this key set as it stands now. And again, it auto-populated some of these other columns that I just left blank to the default. What we want is a full export of this description key set. So perhaps you guys are going to start using this. You have your survey template built. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to come in here, you're going to run an export description key set. So I'll run that, and let's go ahead and overwrite that old one, and then go ahead and open that file. And now what we see in here is that full description key set with all the columns populated. And now this would be the sheet that we work with. So the process for working with this is you'll maintain these tables within an Excel file. You'll basically have a set of Excel files that are part of your standard. Now, it's not necessarily something that those everyday users would be utilizing, but it's something you as CAD managers would be using to update those survey templates. Let's open up a drawing from a template with a larger description key set in it already. So perhaps I'm in maintenance mode and I've got my 300 codes that all my surveyors absolutely need. Let's go ahead and export that instead. Not sure I grabbed the right one there. Here we go. Here's a larger descriptions key set with a whole set of codes in it. Okay, we're going to export this one instead. So I'll run the export description keys, export CTC. And here is now that larger description key set. What else can we do in here? Well, there's mass changes you might be doing when you're maintaining or updating your standards. What about the layering standard? Right? What if let's go ahead and sort this. What if the layering naming doesn't work anymore? We're kind of overhauling this, we're changing this. This becomes really tedious. Now we've got other tools in the Sim Manager suite, like Layer Boss, that helps with this, but these layers referenced right within the description key sets and in the figure prefix database, that's a lot of tedious options too. Well, we all know about find and replace. What if we didn't want vsim? It was to be something else, right? It's supposed to be block, right? Now all those layers are set to vblock. And maybe node, we don't want that to be node anymore. Maybe it's going to go from node to point. Right? Not a big deal. You might be saying to yourself, why do we have to change this? It worked fine. Right? This is part of it. Part of that CAD standards management is creating something that works for everyone. Let's go back to Civil 3D. Here's where that description key set is. And we're going to run create edit description keys. Now we're going to browse out to that new Excel file. We're going to update the CTC one. And again, we get the editing options. I'm in a maintenance mode here, so I want to run the sync. If I happen to be asking it to create new point or point label styles, I would check that on. It doesn't hurt if it's on, right? But we didn't create any new point styles at this point. And then what we're going to find is all these changed codes because I changed the layer in them. So hit OK to that, hit OK again. And now we got all those lovely new layer names. And then, of course, the layer manager itself, I've got those new block layers. It was smaller than in the list in the key set because some of those codes were using the same layer. And then I've got all those new point codes as well. Those references are no longer there. I can pull those V symbol layers out, boom, done. How long would that have taken you? That'd taken you a fair amount of time, right? These kinds of changes are so quick and easy now And you don't have to say, well, this is the way it is. These are the templates we got. I'm not changing it because it'll take me 2 days or 2 hours to do it, right? We can do this stuff really easily, really quickly. Let's look at one other kind of change. Imagine a number of field crews they're always kind of thinking about the code list. And well, it's, this one is confusing. I get it confused with another one. Perhaps it's too difficult to type into the data collector. I don't know. Whatever it is, right? It might be changes just like this, where I'm changing FO to fiber optic, perhaps to provide some better differentiation because we've added some other codes and now it's getting confusing, right? And it's these little things. And at the same time, we said we didn't need the EUG code, right? These little tweaks like this might be some of the kind of stuff you're doing. All of this works fine through the Survey Template Manager. We can run this again. Tells me I have a new code, FOP. It's got those same settings in it. It's going to delete the EUG code as well as the FO, the fiber optic, the old one, basically. It's going to delete that out of there. And then we see that reflected again in the key set. The FOP code and the EUG code gone. So you guys tell me, check this out. Tell me the different scenarios you guys might use this in. I encourage you to go download the free trial, test it out, say, hey Brian, this is pretty cool. I love this. This saves me all this time. Maybe add this feature to it as well, right? This is a brand new suite. Like I said, we just released it a few weeks ago. I think that's why I was stumbling into that bug. We've got our developers sorting through some final bug fixes for this initial release. We're going to be having an update to the Sim Manager suite just within a week or two. And with that will be the 2020 Civil 3D update as well. Civil 3D 2020 came out last Wednesday, and the CTC Express tools are always updated very shortly after those Autodesk releases. So any of these initial release bugs, we'll have those cleaned up, of course. Let's take a look at the figure prefix database. The functionality is pretty similar, but I want to walk you through a little bit. We won't spend quite as much time with it, but I want to show you how it works. So let's run a similar scenario again. And what I'm talking about here, those who aren't familiar, your figure prefix database is again another table of sorts that dictates what to do with the automatic line work that Civil 3D creates for you. This happens to be a file that doesn't reside in the drawing. It's not a drawing or a template-based file. It's a separate file, in fact, that you're pathing to right within your survey user settings. Right here, you're pathing to it right there, or some path like that, right? So we're writing to that external file as well in the exact same way that we are doing with the description key set. So let's start off by go ahead and creating a new one, a sample Excel file where I want to perhaps type out a new code list. And I get a blank slate to start with here, but all the columns are nicely formatted for me. The headers show up in there. There's these smart drop-downs, yes, no drop-downs. Of course, my layer list shows up. My style list shows up. And I would start populating out the same kind of stuff, right? I could copy and paste it in from the description key set. I could even reference it from one Excel sheet to the next, so I don't even have to type this out, right? In fact, that's another point to be made here is oftentimes you have those cheat sheets for your field crews. You probably manage that in Excel. That Excel file, or now set of Excel files, is what you will use to manage both those field crew list, cheat sheets, as well as your templates within the office. And you can be linking these Excel files from one to another. I can have my figure prefix Excel file point to my master code list file that generates my field cheat sheet, and so that everything kind of stays in sync and it's all one standard. Same kind of options again. We can pick through this stuff, grab whatever standard I need, type out my survey site. I can drag and drop, I can find, replace, all this kind of stuff. Big time saver. Let's go ahead and save this, and let's create a new description key set from this. What this is going to do is make a new key set in the path that I have set. So let's come up here and run create or edit figure prefix database. I'm going to path out to that Excel file. I'm going to tell it to create a new one. I'm going to add new figure styles. I'm not sure if I type new ones there or not, but you can always turn that on. And hit next. And it's going to tell me the new codes just like the description key set tool set. This is highlighted red because that's going to be a new site that is generated. And these layers, they happen to reside in the drawing already, so it's not going to flag those as such. So I'll hit OK. And now what we get is a new figure prefix database that reflects that Excel sheet. All those same options are available. Let's go ahead and jump to the export of a figure prefix database. I've got a CTC one that's built out more extensively here. And so we'll go ahead and export that and work with that just a little bit. It's kind of nice. It always prompts you to open the file. Do you want to open it right away to work with it? Of course I do. And there's my figure prefix database. What kind of stuff do I want to do in here? Anything you might be able to do in Excel, you can now do in here. Maybe we're changing that layer standard again. Someone decided we can't have line in our layers, and it needs to instead be geometry, for example. I can't have figure, but these need to instead be line. Okay, quick find replaces. That code needs to be updated to FOP. Now I can come back to Civil 3D, run the create edit figure prefix database, browse out to that file, CTC figure database. I'm going to tell it to now edit the CTC figure prefix database. That's the existing, the built out one we had. And next. And now, of course, I'm going to find a new code created, my FOP one. I'm going to find some changed codes, all those layer changes I made. Everyone's going to be so happy now. And then I've got a deleted code. That was the FO code that got changed. Hit OK to this. Go into my figure prefix database. All those layer settings have changed. And I get new layers created in my template as well. So this is kind of a double duty feature here. We have it generating not just the layer text in the figure prefix database, but it's also generating the layers right in the current drawing itself. So if you wanted it to be writing it to your template, you'd have your template open and push those new layers right to it. Now we don't spell out the entire settings for those layers within the Survey Template Manager. And the reason is because the interface gets fairly complex. What we're after here is managing our codes and the styles and layers assigned to those, not the definitions of those layers themselves. Never fear, that's what Layer Boss is for. That's all about managing all those layer settings in a very similar way like we had just done with Survey Template Manager, but I can manage all my layer manager settings as well as my object layer settings. That's for another day. We'll do a deep dive on that coming up in the next couple weeks to show you how that functions. But managing those exact layer definitions happens with that. So that's about what I wanted to show you with Survey Template Manager. Just a couple parting words I thought I would mention here. What motivated me and our team to create this? It's seeing all of you guys wasting so much time with template management. And I mean that sincerely. Or when you don't actually have the time, you're working with these templates that aren't quite up to date, right? And you just can't find the time to do it. So how do we provide tools, simple tools that make this work a lot easier, a lot more efficient for you? So what we're talking about with this tool set is all your editing, your new creation, the maintaining of your description keys and your figure prefix database, that all happens in Excel. And I showed you that in a lot of different ways. The layers export, the styles export, the block definitions export, all that stuff we can build out new key sets and update key sets very quickly and easily. And we do it through what I would call Excel templates. You've got a set of templates in Excel that you and perhaps your CAD management team work with to maintain those standards. And go ahead and combine this with that field cheat sheet, right? You've probably got something like that on Excel already for the field crews. This can all happen in Excel now, be it the cheat sheet, be it the description key set, be it the figure prefix database. A single set of Excel files is where you can manage that entire set of standards.